What's up, everyone? Hope everyone is doing pretty good today. Um, Hope everyone had a good day today, positive day. I certainly did. Um, I saw my daughter today. I had her today. That's why I didn't post anything earlier today. I was with my daughter. It was good to see her, after a couple days, almost a week. We hung out, got something to eat, talked, had some fun. It's a cool kid. It's nice seeing her. She was happy to see me. That's what it's all about. Remember, don't forget your kids. You want to, be strong for your kids and let them know that you're doing all right. You don't want them to see you upset or anything like that because they're gonna get upset. You don't want that. Um, Today was a good day. It really was a good day. Um, I wasn't in the house too long. I was out and about running some errands, and that was good for me. Focus. This is before I picked up my daughter. Went out and did some things, and went to like BJ's, renewed my membership and stuff like that. Got out of the house. Went to the dentist, got my teeth cleaned and everything like that. And I didn't feel like going home, so I did something constructive. Just cruised around, saw a couple of friends and stuff like that. And I really didn't think about my wife that much today, to be honest with you. She came by and picked up my daughter at 7 o'clock, and that was cool. I talked to her for a couple of minutes, and then she left. It was cool. Certainly, it was definitely cool. But you know what? I'm starting to feel a lot better. I really am, and that's what it's all about. You got to start feeling good about yourself. I know if you're going through this now, obviously you're not going to, but this is why I make this channel, so you can relate to what I'm saying. You can take some advice from me, because the advice that I'm giving you is productive. It's the kind of advice you want, because I went through it. I'm still going through it, but I'm recovering. And if you're going through it, I know what you're gonna I know what you're gonna be going through, man. It's gonna be tough, man. So one of the things you want to do is stay positive. You definitely want to be doing something to keep your mind off what's going on, because it's going to be hard for those that are going through it now. People who's that's 6-7 months into it, they probably feel a little bit better, like I do. It took me a long time because I didn't have a support system. If you had a support system, it didn't take you as long, then that was great. Or if you're still kind of like reeling from it a little bit, but you're not completely there yet, that's great, because it's one day at a time. That's what you got to do. You have to take it one day at a time. But you have to maintain a positive outlook. It's not, it's going to drive you crazy. Like I said, you're going to go down this, you're going to spiral down out of control when you're going to start doing things that you don't do. Like for me, smoking cigarettes. I'm not even a smoker. The reason I smoke is because of what happened. I've been smoking for the last 7 months, and I occasionally smoked a cigarette here and there when I was drinking with my friends or whatever, but I'm not a smoker. Being stressed out, and all that stuff that I was going through, I picked up the smoking, which is a bad habit. It really is. I don't even like it, to be honest with you, but it's just something I'm doing. At least it's not drugs, and I'm not drinking like that. But cigarettes is probably just as bad. For anybody out there that smokes, you know what I'm talking about. But I know that I'm going on a cruise in a couple of weeks, and when I come back, I'm going to be done. I'm going to shut it down, because I'm coming back to be, I'm having when I come back, it's going to be a fresh start for me. I know it's going to be a fresh start, because I just got a letter from her lawyer about fill out some paperwork for absolute divorce, and things are approaching. This is approaching soon. I'm definitely going to be heartbroken when we get a divorce, because she won't legally be mine anymore. She's not now, but legally she won't be mine anymore. It's gonna, once we get a divorce, it's a done deal. It's a done deal. Like I said, it's a small percentage if you ever get back together, but you still would have to change everything about you. And that's for the people who, like, I would definitely, be, definitely would be interested in getting back with my wife, but I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen down the road. We might just become friends, and that'll be it, and I'll be fine with that, because I still love her, and I'm going to care for her. I'm going to care about her a lot. I want to make sure that I hope she's happy. I want her to be happy, whoever she's with, I want her to be happy. She does have my kids, so I'm definitely going to have a communication with her, and I'm going to know if she's happy or not. I do want that for her. It's going to sadden me a lot that she's not with me, but everybody deserves to be happy, right? Even you. Right now, you're not happy. I mean, like I said, I'm happy that I have the house, but I'm sad in this house because there's no activity in this house. As a matter of fact, I just had out of the blue, someone called me up. Some girl called me up. She found out that I was, single, believe it or not, and she wanted to do something and hook up, and I don't know if I'm doing that. I mean, I know who she is. She's an attractive looking woman, and she has a lot going for her and everything like that. That's I mean, I'm considering it, don't get me wrong, but am I mentally ready? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that right now. I mean, it's almost been a year since my wife left. I think it was end of February, early March, and maybe it's time for me to start going out and dating again. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I still love my wife and stuff like that. I mean, I could see myself dating again. Maybe that would alleviate a lot of stuff that's going on with me too. Find someone again, and who knows what's going to happen. Maybe it's just something that's going to be temporary or not. It could be friends with benefits. I don't know. I mean, that could work out too. I don't know, but you have to ask yourself, is that what you want? I mean, you really want to be like completely done, before you start dating, because it's not going to be fair to that person. But when I was talking to her, she actually went through the same thing I went through a few years ago, so I can relate. She can also relate to what I'm going through, so maybe it would be a good thing for me to talk to her. I won't bring up anything, but I'm sure he knows. So I spoke to her, and she's cool with it. Like I said, she's cool with it, and I'm cool with it. Maybe we'll see each other or something. I don't know. I'll have to let you know what's going on with that. But for the people out there who are not ready, if you're not ready, just not ready. If it's been a while and you ready to start dating again, I recommend it. Or start seeing people. For the ones who are just starting to go through this stuff, man, it's definitely not recommended. I mean, listen, man, intimacy is intimacy, but at the end of the day, you still have to go home. You still have to come home and deal with the mess that's going on, right? You're still gonna be in the house. No activity in the house. Nothing going on in the house. You're gonna be thinking about what's going on. Nights are the worst. Like I said, just get out of the house, go to the gym. Go for a bike ride. Go see some friends. Or invite people over. Just make dinner, invite people over. That's cool. Play some cards. Board games, something. Something too that's gonna keep you from thinking about what's going on. That's what it's all about. Because at the end of the day, the less you think about it, the better you're gonna feel. And it's just the way it is. The better you feel, the more you can concentrate on, just looking forward to your new life. It might not be a bad thing. You gotta remember, I mean, how was your life before you met your wife or significant other? You were single, you probably had a lot of things going on for you, and you met someone, you got married, right? Everybody does it like that, right? That's the way it is. I mean, you're gonna have to go back to doing that, whatever it is that you were doing before you got married. I would suggest doing that. Just remember, just do the things that you used to do before that made you happy. I mean, I wouldn't recommend, going out to the bars a lot. If that's what you did before you met your girl, or if you met her there in a bar. But bars are great. There's your pool. There's people there. You can converse with people. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're in a bar and you're drinking, right? And then when you come home, you're gonna feel sad because you come home to an empty house. Essentially, it's basically an empty house. It's a shell of what it was before. And I mean, do you really want to do that? You don't want to do that, and definitely don't do drugs. Drugs are no good for you. Like I said before, drugs are just they're temporary. It's a temporary solution. I know marijuana is legal now, but for those of you that get high, just I don't know, do it leisurely. Do it to just relax and maybe be in your house, watch a movie. It would probably help you go to sleep. Most certainly, it's going to help you gain weight, right? Because you're going to catch a buzz and you're going to go to sleep, right? Or you're going to eat. You're going to gain weight. Well, at least you won't lose the weight, because that's something that's going to be a part of what's going on too. You're going to lose the weight. There's no doubt you're going to lose the weight. That's why you have to just continue to eat. Don't go a long time. Intermittent fasting is not going to be good for you. I'm telling you right now. And that's something you did before, and it's something you continue to do because you want to lose the weight. But you should eat, because gaining the weight is a little harder. Like I said, I was 196 pounds. I went down to 173. This is like almost a year ago, and my weight fluctuated a couple times, but now I'm back to 181. I only want to gain like 4 more pounds, 185, and then I'm good. But it took me a while, because you're gonna have your ups and downs. You're gonna gain the weight a little bit, then you're gonna lose it again. You're gonna gain it, then you're gonna lose it again, because you're gonna be depressed, stressed out. Then you have that pending divorce coming up. She might want to expedite it. Which is hard. So you need to be level-headed. You gotta be strong here and here, man. That's what it's all about. You gotta protect your heart. Stress alone will kill you. You know that, right? You start losing your hair. You start aging a little bit. You start doing things that you don't typically do, and it's gonna affect every part of your body. It's gonna affect the way you start living, the way you start eating. It's gonna start. It's gonna gravitate to your job, and you don't want to do that. You just want to continue to eat healthy. Go to the gym, have a positive outlook. Stay focused at work. If you can't work, if it's affecting your job, take a family leave of absence. For as long as you can, if you can afford it, obviously. Because if you don't say anything and it starts affecting your job, you can get canned. It'll can you, right? And it's gonna be too late to say something. Work with your employer. It's private. Whatever you tell your employers, it's private. They're not gonna say anything. And most jobs will work with you, because everyone goes through this stuff. Everyone goes through it. Maybe your boss went through it a couple years ago, and he knows what you're going through, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna just go easy on this guy here, because he's going through something I went through, and it's brutal. He already knows that. He already knows what you're gonna go through if he went through it, or she went through it. But you want to stay focused on the prize, and the prize is getting healthy and getting better, and having a good outlook at your life. If you need to relocate, because I was contemplating on doing that. I have a 9-year-old daughter. It's going to be difficult for me to do that. I don't think I want to do it right now. If she was 18, 19 years old, I probably would have been gone, but they can always come and see me. But when you have a young kid, relocating is hard. You don't want to see them as much, unless you have the funds to bring her up and down, or yourself. It gets expensive, but I would definitely, if you don't have any kids, definitely reconsider relocating, because sometimes it's a fresh start. It would be good for you sometimes. And if you live in a proximity like I do with like my wife, she's like 5 minutes away. And I chose to be 5 minutes away because I have a kid. I didn't want to purchase a home somewhere far and have to drive half an hour or whatever to see her, and it's gonna might be an issue with your significant other to take her up there and back, so the traveling part is going to be an issue. But if you have to relocate, I would suggest relocating, especially if you can transfer from your job to another job at a particular place you want to go to, preferably somewhere warm, right? Somewhere warm, right? But if you can't, you're gonna have to deal with this stuff. You're gonna have to let it run its course. You're gonna have to let it run its course. And you don't have a choice in the matter, to be honest with you. You're gonna have to let it run its course, because you gotta face this upcoming battle, and it's, you gotta go out there like a warrior, and just start doing what you gotta do to clear a path to where you need to go, right? And that's moving forward. Just make sure you pay your bills. Don't do anything stupid that's going to cause you to lose your job and you lose your home. Then it's going to be a bad year. I had a bad year last year. A lot of things. It was just like domino effect. Bam, bam, bam. I was like, wow, dude, what else is going to happen here? I'm like, it was just brutal. But that for those of you that are just separated and you're not contemplating getting a divorce, that's a good thing. That's a good start. That's something, that's good. But obviously you're gonna have to change everything that you do, everything about you. You have to be that guy that they met when you first met. You have to be the guy that you were when you first met each other, because that's the person they fell in love with. That's the person they like. And obviously you're no longer that person. Or maybe you are. Maybe it was them that changed and they checked out. There's nothing you can do about it. Obviously it wasn't meant to be. Just a bottom line. Sometimes, if you haven't changed anything about you and there's nothing you can do, you pleaded with them, you bought them gifts, you took vacations, stuff like that, and at the end of the day they still feel like that, just let them go. Obviously you can't change anyone's mind, and don't do that to yourself, because you're just gonna spend money on someone who's not gonna appreciate you and not reciprocate. If they, it's you can't make someone love you, and you can't force someone to stay with you. Bottom line, you gotta go. If they have to go, they have to go. It's gonna be the best thing for you. Trust me, I know it's gonna still hurt, but it's gonna be the best thing for you. You have to just don't forget the support system. Good friends. Reunite with friends that you haven't seen in a while. I'm sure they'll be happy to see you. Your family. They're gonna be more concerned than anybody else, and but like I said before, unless they have gone through what you've gone through, there's really nothing they can do for you, right? Because they don't know what you're going through. People like me and other people who are watching this video, we're going through it. We've gone through it, so it's easier to relate to someone who's gone through it. Give you some good advice. This is why I'm making these videos, to give you advice on what you should do, you shouldn't do. You gotta protect your heart at the end of the day, and that's what it's about. And you only want to look and go out and get some books, read some books on coping skills and how to deal with a separation and independent divorce. There's a lot of books out there. I've read quite a few of them, and these books are very they're great, because they're telling you what I'm telling you, basically, in more detail, obviously, but you have to focus on taking care of yourself. Continue taking care of yourself. Go to your doctor regularly, the dentist, checkups, yearly checkups, stuff like that. Whatever it is that you were doing when you were married, continue doing that. That's what you want to do. Don't sacrifice your health for your feelings, because at the end of the day it's a losing battle. This is why you got to clear your head up here. You got to remove that out of there, put it in the recycle bin, right? And then you can delete it, and then you can continue moving forward. That's what you want to do. For the people who are are going to get back together, like I said, you got to change everything that you do. Everything. It's not working. She'll probably give you another chance, You know, don't ruin it. You know, just be the person who you were. That's the person that she wanted. That's the person who she wanted to be with. It's the reason why she checked out or left temporarily. But, and sleep on the couch, you know, it just, like I said, you know, you should stop sleeping on the couch. You know, I emphasize a lot on, you know, sleeping together. You know, that's how you create a bond. Because if you argue and then you go back to sleep together in the same bed, you're not going to be as mad. You know, if anyone that knows that I'm talking about knows that it's the truth, you're not as mad as you were the night before when you wake up in the morning. You can talk about it. You know, let things calm down. Let the dust settle. Right? That's what you want. But you have to definitely change everything about you. You know, because the person you are is not the person she likes. Period. She's going to move on. And then you're going to lose that chance of reuniting with her. Trying to make it work out. Because I'm sure at the end of the day, they still love you. It's not like they don't love you. They just don't like who you are. You know, the love isn't gone. For some people, it is. That's why you really have to move forward. But if there's a possibility that you can get your significant other back, by all means, do what you got to do and get them back. But you have to change everything that you do. Okay? Everything. It's not sustainable. I keep talking about this in my videos, and I'm going to keep talking about it because, you know, every day someone is going through this. Every day someone is getting the news that their significant other wants a separation, a divorce. Every day somebody's going through this. Thousands, 10,000s, millions of people are going through this every day. You know, maybe someone is checking out my video for the first time and wondering, you know, it's probably, you know, I'm giving them good advice. I'm hoping that they, you know, they take it and absorb it and recover quickly. And have a good support system. That's what you want. Like I said, I didn't have a support system. That's why it's taken me a long time. You know, people who don't have a support system, it's gonna take longer. Trust me. You know, like I said, no one called me. Nobody checked up on me. You know, no one. It was brutal, dude. It was brutal. You know, I don't know if they wanted to stay out of it, but I mean, it's no one. You know, they checked up on me. So I was in this pit. You know, and it took me a long time to crawl out. You know, I dug myself out, and you know, I'm feeling a lot better now. You know, a lot better. Like I said, you know, I had a good day today. Didn't even think about my wife that much. I saw my kids. My wife came, talked to her for a couple of minutes, and then she left. I helped her out with a couple of things. Got some stuff done for her. She was happy about that. She thanked me a lot for it. So that's good, man. You know, that's what you want. You know, you got to engage like that with your significant other. Like I said, you don't have to be enemies. You don't have to be enemies because, you know, really at the end of the day, maybe it isn't a good fit. Maybe it just didn't work out. Maybe you have different aspirations. You know, somewhere down the line, you know, something happened. You ran into a crossroad, you know, and you couldn't recover, you know. You know, someone wanted to stay going forward and the other one wanted to take a detour, you know, and the person who took the detour is the one that checked out, right? Because you still continue to do the same thing that you were doing before, you know. You didn't change anything, right? If you would have changed something, you would have taken that detour together. You know, just if you get back together, that's great. You know, go out and do something together, you know, that you don't usually do or didn't do as much. You need to continue dating your wife or your girlfriend. You got to take them out, do something, do it often. Because that's what they want. At the end of the day, they want to be appreciated, and so do you. But it was a good day. So just remember, you gotta you know, keep strong up here and here, especially at night. Excuse me, on the weekend too. And you know, and everything will work out. You know, it's gonna get easier. You know, it will get easier. It's gonna get easier for the people who's been doing it a little bit longer, and it's gonna get better for the people who are just going through it before it gets easier. It's the way it is, you know. So listen, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit that notification, hit that bell, you know, and I'm trying to get the word out. You know, I'm reaching a lot of people, which is great. You know, people are leaving comments. That's great. You know, I'll get back to you. Just want to let you know that you're not alone, okay? You're not alone. You know, there's a lot of people going through this. You're not alone. There are a lot of people out there that are going through the same thing that you're going through right now. So just remember, you're not alone, okay? I want you to have peace of mind. You know, I want you to have a good night's sleep. I want you to wake up in the morning feeling a little bit better, going to work, coming home, you know, interacting with your friends and family members, and you know, soon, you know, next thing you know, it's the following day. And that's the way it is. So listen, I'm gonna leave you guys right now. As always, you know, be strong up here, and you know, just follow that, you know, that path to, you know, feeling better and having a productive life and being happy again, okay? In the meantime, I'll talk to you guys sometime tomorrow morning. I'll leave a little short. And so good night. Be safe. Take care. Have a good night.